Well, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I'm Carly Glenn. I'm a singer-songwriter in New York, and I heard about your podcast, and I have a crazy story to tell you today, Devora. Makes me nervous talking about because I'm already getting clammy, and
That's normal. That'll go away.
Okay.
I tell everybody, 15 minutes in, it's just rolling. Feels like second nature. It's just you're telling your story to anybody.
Well, I am. I'm telling my story to everybody coming on this podcast. But I thought it was important to come on, especially to tell this story because it has to do with mental health and getting care that was not necessarily good. So I guess I'll start there. So back in 2017, I started having PTSD symptoms and just stuff was coming up from childhood trauma that I couldn't manage. And I was having, I'm having symptoms I'm having literally now telling this, shakiness, just very hard to focus, very weird sort of episodes where I didn't know where I was. And I was gotta figure this out. I was 22. I had to check myself into treatment. I was not doing well. I was in Chicago trying to be, a comedian on the Second City stage. And for those who don't know Second City, that's where Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Stephen Colbert, icons, Bonnie Hunt, if anyone knows. That's a fun fact because I feel a lot of people don't know that she went there. Cheaper by the dozen for those who love Bonnie Hunt. I checked myself into treatment because I wasn't feeling myself. I was anxious, PTSD symptoms from childhood stuff that was coming up. And I had a great experience at this one treatment center. And I thought I was only going to be there for 2.5 months, one and done, go. And then back to real life.
Were you in therapy or did you just go straight to the treatment center?
Yeah, I had been in therapy at that time since I was 9 years old. So when I was younger, I was already struggling with mental health as it was. And I wanted to take care of myself. I cared about myself. I liked who I was at the time. And I wanted help. And so I was going in already with years of therapy under my belt just for something else that was coming up in my early 20s that I couldn't compartmentalize whatever was going on. I was up until that point in my life, I was able to be myself and have my anxiety and just take care of it on my own and do college. And I wasn't allowing myself to really let trauma hit me. And it finally came out in my early 20s. I was in this treatment center and like I said, I thought it was going to be a one and done thing. And they said to me, oh no, you need to go to a step down program. And I'm a step down? What does that mean? To ease me back into real life. So a intensive outpatient or a residential program. And I'm thinking, come on, I want to go back to my life and being funny and I have this anxiety sort of figured out right now. I was able to talk about something that I, had never spoken about in therapy in years and years. So I felt that 2.5 months was really powerful for me and I was ready to move on. And so their suggestion, I listened to them. I was I want to do what's best for me. And okay, I'll look into a step down program. So I was in Chicago at the time and I we had a computer time in the afternoon. I was at a place where I had no phone, no nothing. I read a book a day. I did my Sudoku. And I was looking at places in the Chicago area because I'm I want to get back to my life. I want my cat back because I had not, I couldn't bring Tom to treatment. Yeah. And so I was I'll do an outpatient program and that'll be perfect because I can live back in my apartment downtown. I can have my little kitty cat and I'll just commute and maybe go back to film school, which I did. So I get to this place and it's all good and fine. And, you know, I trust the people there because I don't know any better as a young girl. And I was young, like 23. I think you're still a kid at 23, like truly. And so I get there and it's my birthday. I turned 23 when I got there. And I stayed at their like residence to do my intake. And everything was good. I liked the people. I liked who I was there with, like the other patients that I met during that intake. And I liked the doctors. They seemed trustworthy. And so I spent 6 months there being a model patient. Like I was the type of person at this time to be a go-getter. Like I was up doing Soul Cycle at 7 a.m, then going to this and that and this and that. And I had so much energy because I was myself and I never knew anything else.
Yeah.
And that's important to know because I wasn't like that for about 6 years of my life for what I'm about to tell you. So I'm at treatment and it's all going well. Star patient, like I said, I show up, I'm there every day, no absences. You sign away basically your life when you check into these sorts of places, like no drinking, no sexual activity with unless you have a partner. And so I was a rule follower. I didn't want to break the rules. Like I was such a goody two shoes. And 6 months into my treatment there, I had 2 of my friends come and visit me from out of town. And I was living at my apartment. And on the weekends, I was free to do what I wanted because I was at treatment from, you know, Monday through Friday, every day, 9 to 5, sometimes 6, 7, literally always there. And so I was like, at this point, I'm like, I need a break. Like, I don't struggle with, you know, alcohol and drugs. At this point, I wasn't. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to have a fun night out. So 2 of my friends from college come to visit me. And I did like a classic Chicago night, which is like trolley night. And we did this trolley and we all got so wasted and just had fun. Like it was such a great night. And I ended up like kissing a boy on the left of me, one of my friends, and like making out with a guy on the right. Like silly, goofy. I'm in my 20s. I'm running around Chicago. I need a break and I'm having a good time. So at this place where I'm at, this treatment center, we had a form that you have to fill out when you do something wrong or bad, and you have to present it to the entire treatment center on like a Tuesday or Thursday when we had our meetings.
So it's up to you to pick out what it was that you did wrong.
It was up to me to not do anything wrong. Okay. And this was the wrong thing that I did. So I like went into the trolley night knowing like I'll just write that I drank and, you know, this is what I'll say to, you know, all the people. So I was totally prepared for that. I was like, whatever, like I've seen so many people do it here. Like, you know, it doesn't faze me. I don't care. Like I'll just get up and whatever. It seems so silly because it was. And a lot of things at this place were really iffy. And that's why I'm here telling this story. But anyway, so trolley night was fun. And I get to treatment the following Monday and I know I've done something wrong and I'm going to have to spill the beans and tell, you know, I have to confess. Like I'm a goody two shoes. I'll tell them that I drank and that I, you know, kissed a couple dudes. And so my therapist there on my treatment team, I saw her and I told her the whole story. I said, you know, my friends from college were in town. I scheduled a trolley night. I drank and I made out with this guy and I hooked up with this guy. 2 of these guys just in front of everyone, whatever. It was like silly, goofy. And so spilled the beans in therapy. I go home that night. And I come back into the program the next day. And at this point, I haven't really heard from my parents, which is important to know because we're so constantly communicating. Like on my drive here, they called me, like both of them at different times. Like I'm always communicating with them, and the program is designed so that your parents are really like there with you. Mm-hmm. And so I heard from them all the time, and I hadn't heard from them like Monday morning when I had my therapy to this Tuesday afternoon when I had gotten to treatment. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I call them. I'm like, hey, they sounded so strange on the phone. And I'm like, what is going on? So they're like, you might want to go check in with doctor, and I'm just not saying names, but go check in with the chief medical officer there, Dr. What's-His-Face. I like that for him, Dr. What's-His-Face.
That's good.
Yeah, it is good, because what he did to me sucks. So they're like, why don't you go talk to him? And I'm like so confused. I'm like freaking out, like, oh no, what did I do wrong? Because I'm like trying to be a good patient, and I'm like a good...
Following the rules.
Following the rules. So I go down to his office and I knock. It's open. He brings me in. I sit down. And he stands and he goes back and forth. He's going on this long speech. And I'm like, so like beyond like, I'm like attentive with him because at this point he's groomed me to be so. And it's 6 months in, so I trust him. And I'm listening to him thinking like, what are you talking about? So he's going on about how the trolley night and what I did was so terrible. And I'm thinking to myself, like, it's not adding up. Right. Like, what I went out and did doesn't match how, surprised and worried you are. So I said to him, what? I don't understand why this is such a big deal. And he looked me dead in the eyes and he said, you could have gotten raped. You could have gotten pregnant. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He looks me dead in the face and goes, well, you slept with multiple men around the city. You slept with multiple men around the city. And I sat there like just... my ears like started ringing because I'm like, whoa. What is this rumor you've heard? Because my story goes that I had this trolley night. My best friends were with me all night. I didn't sleep with multiple men. What are you talking about? And I'm sitting there like this, defending myself because I was a strong motherfucker. And I was like blown away. I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't sleep with multiple men. You slept with multiple men around Chicago. You kept on drilling it at me until I believed in myself. So here I am being told that I've slept with many men around the city.
And he was saying just that night?
Just that night. Just that trolley night. Like I had exactly.
And did he make that up or did that?
No. So what happened in the translation with my therapist is that she used the verbiage that I used, which is hook up. Which to me just means like a makeout in my generation. I'm a millennial. I think all of us would agree. Hook up, he heard it as I had slept with multiple men around the city, which by the way, that's his verbiage. It didn't happen. That's not what happened. And so I have exactly like.
Well, my thing is like even if you decided to fuck 5 men,
I know, right? What's his fucking deal? Like
nobody. That's no one's place to judge that.
Well, it was so judgmental, and this man is supposed to be a doctor. Who cares?
It like reminds me of like a weird, like almost like when you hear the stories of like a church, like when somebody goes to like the
very culty.
Yeah.
So that's why this story is so important, because what happens next ruined my life for the next 6 years. He kept on drilling this into me until I believed it myself, until I said, okay, give me whatever you think I should be taking to, offset the crazy behavior that I've just made. And because I couldn't get out of it. I was being manipulated to believe that this is something that had happened to me when in reality it really fucking didn't. And
did you still have to share it in front of like it?
Yeah. And I defended myself. I said, I didn't do this. And and I was gaslit to say, no, you're manipulating your therapist. Like and so what happened because of this trolley night and because of this silly little night that I just wanted to have for myself completely blew up into you're bipolar, you're manic, you're promiscuous, and we have to get you off your Lexapro because you had this night because of your Lexapro making you manic, and we have to get it off. You have to get off it immediately, and we're putting you on lithium. So to sum it up, a chief medical officer spread a rumor that I had sex with multiple men around the city, convinced me of that, told me I was bipolar because of it, put me on lithium, and the next week I was pretty much brain dead. Imagine this lively person. I had no words. I was deadpan. I had no brain. And I do get emotional talking about it.
Yeah.
Because how dare a person like do that? And for 6 years, I was not myself. Mm-hmm. I had no personality. I forgot how to sing. It was devastating.
They stripped you of who you were.
Who I was. I had no vernacular. Like I had to have my phone out in group therapy to Google words because I had no idea what anyone was talking about. And every time I begged them on my hands and fucking knees to get me off the lithium, they would say, oh, you're just talking about your trauma more. You're just talking about your trauma more.
So do you think it was because they put you on such a high dose?
Yeah. Well, I think it's because this man in power who knew that I was a privileged person who had, good parents. I got so sick that I had to move into the residence, which is just more money for him and his practice.
Right.
The amount of people that came and left that place was horrendous, like professionals who worked there. And finally, after 6 more months of me being there, I was moved into a basement apartment. And I lived with someone who had schizophrenia, which was like, it was awful. Yeah. I was there out of my mind. I had no brain. Lithium, if you are not diagnosed bipolar, it's just going to shut you off. Mm-hmm. And not only was I on lithium, I was put on Lamictal, Seroquel, Wellbutrin, all of these drugs that made me shut off. And when I tell you that I was a zombie, that's truly all I was. I had no joy, no happiness. It was just tears and dead. And I was like every day digging so deep to try to find just a small ounce of me and nothing. And it was just, I think what was the scariest part about it and what's so scary about it now is that I don't think I lost years off my life. Like I was really in that space for 6 years. Like that's how much it screwed me up. Mm-hmm. The scariest, I think, part about it is to know that this man has so much power because of his credentials.
Right.
And I'm not the only person at this treatment center with a horrible story. Mine doesn't even come close to some of the things that I know have gone on there. So yeah.
So how long were you there in total?
I was there for 1 whole year. I was there from age 23 or 24 to 25.
Okay.
And my mom finally came to pick me up after the 6 months. Up until the trolley night, I had been
going back and forth, right?
Yeah. And my parents were always out doing therapy with me, and they kept me so away from them for those 6 months. And finally my mom came out And I had a great relationship with the woman at the front desk because I'm just friendly. I love talking to people. And that's who I was. I was spunky. It's who I am now. Thank God. Like, thank God I'm back. Like, it's been the last year that I've fully been present in my brain. So I'm like, now I'm going to go tell this fucking story.
Right.
Because this should not be happening at a place that is probably federally regulated because it's run by actual doctors. Like, the reason why I bring that up is because, like, Paris Hilton went to a horrible, unregulated place, and her story is so insane. And, like, I think that's what was scary about mine is, like, I'm at this place that is federally regulated, that is run by a doctor.
Yeah, it goes to show that
but
it can
it's
happen
malpractice,
anywhere.
right? Malpractice. But to answer your question, I was there until I was 25, and this amazing woman at the front desk, my mom was in the waiting room. She flew from New York to Chicago to come out to see me. And she got there and wanted to talk to the, staff immediately because I was not myself. Everyone in my family knew it. Everyone was like, where's our daughter? Where's our daughter? Like, I truly had no personality, like robotic, and just cried. And she got there, and the woman at the front desk leaned over to her while I was going back to get the doctor to come and talk to my mom. She flew all the way out here and she wants answers, and he wouldn't even give her the time of day. And meanwhile, they're paying thousands and thousands of dollars for me to be there. So, like, what, you can't speak to my parent for 2 seconds? Anyway, so the woman leaned over to my mom and is like, get her out of here. Like, get your daughter out of here. And my mom was like, why? And she was like, she's not herself. They are making her sick. Yeah. And that's when I left. And it took me 6 years to get back into my right mind.
So your mom took you out that day. And then did you go back to the therapist that you were seeing before?
No.
Or none at all?
They cut me cold turkey because they had no plan for me. I was so desperate to get off these medications. I was taking them every fucking day.
Yeah, so
because
did you just
they
stop
were
the medicines altogether?
Yep.
Okay.
Under the care of my gynecologist, thank God. Like, they left me with no resources because they kept saying, if you leave or if you go off your meds, we will be forced to kick you out. And so the gaslighting was, like, insane. And I just listened and abided and just did what I had to do to, like, stay there and appease them because they had so much control over me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't remember what your question was.
I was asking if you went back to the therapist. You said no because they cut you off.
Oh, yeah. No,
so you just stopped the medicine completely.
I stopped it cold turkey. They gave me no resources because I had left. And they sent me a horrible email, like, saying they weren't offering me, like, my final rounds or discharge or anything. And they left me for dead, essentially. So thank God I had my parents. I lived at my parents' house for, like, 6 months.
Okay.
And I got off the meds that way. I got my Lexapro back from my gynecologist, and because she's amazing. I love her. She was literally at my sister's wedding. She's incredible. She has a podcast of her own. And yeah, she prescribed that to me, and I was able to undo what they did, sort of. But I kind of want to show you a picture of what I looked like through that time, because not only was I not in my right mind, I was over 100 pounds heavier than I am right now because of the effects of all of the medications on my body. And I was unrecognizable inside and out. I had no idea who I was on the inside. I had no idea who I was on the outside.
Right.
And before I find this picture, like, I just want to say that the importance of this story for me and why I'm telling it is because hopefully somebody is in my position and listens to this and they're on the wrong medication and they know it, and they might be getting gaslit by whoever's giving it to them. But you know your mind's the best. And if you're ever told by a medical professional that, no, you're wrong, like, that is malpractice in my opinion.
And I mean, I think too, like you said, you can trust yourself and know if something feels off or wrong to speak up. Yeah. Because, you know, just because they're a doctor doesn't mean that they're always right. And obviously your case is extreme. Yeah. But there's also doctors that I feel like just want to prescribe. They don't actually like take the time to hear you out, or some people don't even need medicine.
No. And he didn't take any time to hear me out. He spun a story, a web of lies. At the 6-month mark, he had nothing to pin me with. Oh no. Yeah. I had a trolley night.
When you got out, did you ever have a thought in your head of like, well, I wonder if, like, I might be bipolar. I wonder if I might have these other things.
I had no idea who I was after I left this place because...
like you're told that you're...
Exactly. Yeah. Like, you're told all these things, and I had no idea who I was after I left that place. And I knew exactly who I was when I walked in there. You know what I mean? And so...
You start to question, I feel like, everything.
I started to question everything. Of course, I questioned my life. I questioned my being here. I had no joy, no happiness, no personality, no nothing. It was basically me being comatose, like walking around with a dead brain. Like, I could walk, talk, and eat and other things. But like,
you had nothing to you.
I had nothing to me. I was just a body and walking around. And so in 2021, I tried to take my own life. I couldn't do it anymore. And by the grace of fucking God, man, I met the best therapist I've ever known. And she saved my life. And she has a connection to the place that I was at. So the treatment center, like, she knows them and has an opinion. And it's just crazy. It's insane. Yeah. Podcast. Just plugging the pod. Insane. Yeah. It is insane that I found her. I mean, the way that I found her in Chicago is, like, beyond. And she got licensed in New York for me, like, because she's a badass. And she was able to validate everything that had happened to me there. Yeah.
Were you able to take any legal action at all?
Not yet.
But you plan to?
I hope to one day, yeah.
You should.
I will. Not right now. I have bigger things to fry right now. Wait, let me show you this picture.
Yeah, show me.
So you can just have a visual. Okay, ready?
Whoa, my goodness. I'm like more focused on your face.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you don't even have the same face.
No. Are you blown away?
Were your parents shocked?
My parents are traumatized by the whole thing. I'm traumatized, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long ago did
looking
this
at
happen?
that, like, it triggers me. Like, really does.
Yeah.
Isn't that horrible?
Right. Well, I think too, you know, it takes...
It was a toll on my body and my brain.
Yeah.
And I'm tired.
It takes a lot of, I think, healing to get to a place where, and I wouldn't say even that, because I think that there could be times that you can talk about something or look back at something and it not have an effect on you. And then other times where you look back and it does affect you and trigger you. And that's normal. I think that's part of healing in your journey. And it's not a bad thing. I think it makes you human to have those emotions. And you have every right to feel sad by that, because, like you said, your life and personality and, you know, your voice was stripped from you.
Oof.
You know?
Like, that got me.
Yeah.
My voice.
Like, everything.
I mean, that is like the biggest thing. That killed me. Because I am a singer. Like, that is like my means to express myself.
That's your therapy in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. They took away, like, oh my God. I just remember I was in a voice lesson downtown. And I was trying to sing while I was on the meds. and I had a little small breakthrough, but not in a way that was, not how I'm singing now. Now I'm singing like, oh my God, I'm back. Mm-hmm. But I just had a moment in my voice lesson where like something came out of me, and I broke down, and I was like hyperventilating. My voice teacher was so amazing. And, he just like stopped what he was doing, like came and just rubbed me on my back. And like, I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. Like, truly. All I wanted to do was have a fun trolley night, and then this psychotic psychiatrist made me really sick. Yeah. And I almost died.
But it's so important, like you said, because there's people that are going through this or have gone through it. And, you're on the side of it now where you're able to talk about it, but so many people still aren't.
No.
And, you're providing that voice for people as well, because too many people, I think, and it's very easy to let this happen, but I think too many people allow other people and these traumas and things that happen to them in their life define them, and they don't 100%. Come back from it. So the fact that you were able to, come out on the other side and speak about it, especially this soon after, like it's not like it was like 10 years ago,
Right.
It's just, I feel like you kind of provide and show that there is a light.
Thank you.
At the end of it.
You're exactly right. That is literally why I'm here today.
Mm-hmm.
Like because, oh my God, if I had been listening to a story like this when I was in treatment, I would have like called 911. I would have been like, get me out of this freaking place. Like, they're drugging me. Like,
right. I think it also makes you a little bit more aware, which I feel like we live in a world, unfortunately, where it's important to be so cautious and aware.
Yeah.
Like we have to kind of feel like almost like watch our backs all the time. Like you can't trust anyone.
No.
And I hate to say that.
No.
And there are good people. There are some people that you can trust. But I think that, it goes to show that, like we said, just because you're a doctor or professional or something might be regulated. Like it doesn't mean that it can be trusted or that they're doing things properly or right. And, they destroyed someone's life for a period of time.
Yep, they did.
And that is something that should be spoken out about. Thank you. Like you said too, it's happening to people in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Which is so heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah. Like mine, listen, what happened to me is really strange. Like it is. Like I was sitting in an office listening to this psychiatrist tell me I had slept with multiple men when I literally knew I literally was in bed by like 11 p.m.
Like I said, that just doesn't even make sense to me, because even if you did, how does that result in, even if someone is promiscuous, how does that make them bipolar? Why does that mean they need to be on 10 different medications? Like that doesn't even.
It doesn't. And I don't think that he can't. Like, he can't know that makes
I think
sense.
It's a control thing. It's almost like I think people like that get off on control.
Right. And he is the definition of a narcissist.
Yeah.
So, truly. Like, I was under the care of a narcissistic psychiatrist. And that's your headline for the episode, everybody.
Right.
That's literally it. That's the headline.
Right. So, in the 6 years after, what did you find that helped you the most? Like what were some things that you did? Okay.
Creating. Yeah. I made a whole TV show called I Didn't Mean to Go Mental. It's I made the pilot, like I wrote it. I ended up, it was something that I was working on in film school, because I was going to film school during treatment, and then I was told, oh, you can't go to film school anymore. You're sick.
Yeah.
And so I dropped out, and then I went back, but they really ruined trajectory that I had, that who knows where I would have gone. But I think that during these 6 years, like I've been able to process what happened to me through all of my work, which is like my show, I Didn't Mean to Go Mental, which I star in. Okay.
Oh,
so yeah, I would say that I created a lot. And,
And that probably felt good to get back too.
It felt amazing. And in the last year, now that I've had my voice back it's been restored to what I know it to be, I, weirdly enough, like serendipitously so, I was on the phone with my friend Craig when I was living in Chicago, FaceTiming, and this woman was like in the room and whipped the phone out of his hand, and it ended up being my now producer of my debut album, Molly Wilson, who used to manage Carly Simon, who I was named after. And ever since, I've just been working on myself and putting myself first, which is what I've had to do in the last 6 years, especially these last few years since I was in psych, because I tried to take my own life and was admitted there. So ever since then, I've just been patient, and things have been happening for me that I hope I deserve. Like, I think I deserve it because I was so not in my right mind. And like, oh my gosh, I met this amazing producer who's connected to me in this serendipitous way. And now I'm recording my debut album. And I got to process a lot of, like, I have a song called PTSD on my record, Worth Fighting For, which is coming out January 14th. And then a lot of other songs that reflect like the journey that I've been on the last 6 years. So I've been busy creating stuff so that I don't have to ruminate in it so much. And that's like, I don't know, it's kind of what makes an artist, I guess. You know, you write what you know, and that's just how I've been spending my time.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say to you too. You know, obviously, I don't believe that anything, like, while yes, everything that happens to us happens for a reason. Do I think that these bad or traumatic things should happen? No. But I do think that if they do, we can turn it into something that 1000%. Makes our story
meaningful.
Yes. Like, I feel like, you know, now you're able to use what happened to you in something that you love, you know, like with your creativity. And that'll speak volumes to so many people.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm serious.
I appreciate it.
Good.
Great.
But
we're hanging out after this, obviously.
But no, like, I just feel like, you know, while yes, obviously when you talk about it and you sit here and you reflect it, it can very easily make you emotional and make you upset. But at the same time, you know, everybody's going through a healing journey and a process. And I think that if you're able to take that and turn it into something good and help other people and prevent it from happening, or even allow people to have more courage to use a voice and speak up, and even recognize like, oh, this might be off or something's wrong here. Like, you're doing wonders.
Thank you for saying that. Because seriously, I've been like stirring about, like, do I come on here? Do I talk about it? And it's like, okay.
Well, it's scary because you're
it
like,
is scary. It's like, I wonder how people are going to perceive this, if they even are going to think it's as bad as it was for me. Like, you know what I mean?
There's that, but also everybody handles trauma and things differently. There's somebody that could have something like that happen to them and they're just done for. Like, they don't ever come back from it. Exactly. There's some people that it might happen to them and it goes right over their head. You don't know how, like, we're human. We're all different. But that doesn't take away from how it affected you and how it made you feel. Yeah. That's very real. And you're entitled to that in every single way.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it can be very scary speaking out against
doctors who are still doing this. And like, the place is up and running.
And especially when it comes to mental health, because I think people are very quick to judge people or think people are crazy or insane or this, that, and the other. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, none of that, like, the labels of it don't really matter. It's I think at the end of the day, if any medication or treatment is stripping someone away from who they truly are within, it's a problem.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger problem when you go directly to who you're supposed to go to, which is a doctor, to say, I don't feel good on this med.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And all they did was not help me.
Right.
And for their gain.
And originally you checked yourself in, right?
Of course I did.
Yeah. Like, so it's like, it's crazy that if you think of it that way, it's like you just wanted help. And then
I just
spirals into this bizarre
and it's like this stuff that happened to me when I was a little girl. Like, I didn't even mention that. Like, I've, you know, there's a lot of stuff. I know you probably have to, put a trigger warning on a lot of people who come on here because it is triggering to hear me say this, but I was sexually abused as a kid and for many years. And that all came out in my early 20s. And that is why I went away. I'm like, I have to go talk about this under in a place where I feel safe.
Right.
And so now that this horrible thing at this treatment center it doesn't even compare to what I went through as a kid. What I went through when I was 24, 25 and the last 6 years, and that is not something I would wish on anybody. To truly lose yourself and to have no idea what you are, who you are.
It's helpless.
It's helpless. It's devastating. It is. I will never, ever take happiness for granted ever again. If I'm taking anything from this experience, it's that. And little things in life. Yeah. That's my story, Devorah.
Well, I think you did amazing.
Thank you.
You should be proud of yourself.
I am.
Do you
proud
feel
of
less
myself.
clammy over there? Do you feel any better? Did you feel get a little bit looser?
No,
after?
I feel loose. I feel good. I'm I'm comfortable. I could probably sit here now for another hour.
See,
but I don't know if people really want to listen to me.
Once you get it flowing, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on, or you think you got it all?
I think that's the main story. There's a lot of shit that happened there that really fucked with me, but it's not something I'm going to talk about today because it's still stuff that I'm unpacking in therapy, and that is my main. That's my main narrative from that place. I will say in my rounds once they said this to me, which is so psychotic because I'm funny, and if you haven't already guessed or noticed, I like to make jokes and have a good time, and that's how I showed up to treatment. I was a ball of energy and I just wanted...
You had a personality.
I had a personality.
Could you imagine that?
I can't imagine that. Oh my God. And in my round, a doctor said this to me. Well, you don't want to end up like Robin Williams. And I'm like, dude, Robin Williams had dementia, you dumbass. This is the care that I was under.
Right.
What do you mean I'm going to end up?
Yeah.
Are you threatening my life? I'm supposed to be here to get help. I don't know.
I think a lot of people aren't very professional. I think they don't have a filter. I think they don't speak before they think.
No.
Or think before they speak. Sorry, guys.
I wasn't speaking at all.
I wasn't thinking before I just spoke there, but that's okay. No, they don't. No. And we live in a twisted, sick world. And like I said, there are some good people. There are some trustworthy people.
Yes.
But unfortunately, you kind of have to sift through to find them.
You do.
And I'm so glad that you ended up finding an amazing therapist that saved your life. That makes the biggest difference.
Shout out to her because she's a blessing.
Yes. And I get that. It takes time. I mean, I've said this multiple times on here too. I was never really somebody that thought that I wanted therapy or needed therapy. I tried it a couple times. Felt very transactional, didn't like it. And I feel like, unfortunately, that is the case.
It is.
And,
For a lot.
And it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't help anything.
No.
They're giving you charts of breathing exercises. If it was that easy, I don't think we'd have as many problems in the world, but whatever. And then you can find somebody amazing and it just gives you a different mindset. So, even if that can be another message in there of don't give up on finding the right person or a good person to talk to.
Not at all.
They are out there.
They are. And it's just like dating. You have to be patient and you have to date your therapist.
It's trial and error.
It's trial and error. And what I will say is the reason why therapy has been so unbelievable for me now is because, one, I have an incredible therapist who got into this profession because she genuinely cares about humans and she's brilliant. And she allowed me to discover so much on my own. She was just like my guide. And she let it play out and she took care of me and was so methodic about how she took care of me. And because I was not in a good place when I first saw her. I was having these horrible episodes. I I hammered my hand during one of an episode. Like I was so out of it that I took a hammer to my hand. And I don't know. The rest, I woke up, in a weird state of confusion, and my hand was all black and blue from me just hammering the shit out of myself because I was made and manipulated to like hate myself so much at this place.
They almost like made you lose your mind.
I did lose my mind. Oh, I sure did.
And yourself and everything.
And everything. But yeah, you know what? I'm alive and well.
Yeah. And you're here to talk about it.
And I'm here to talk about it. And now I'm like living my dream. I'm like literally in the midst of releasing my debut album, which is
incredible.
14. Yeah, it's incredible. It's 14 songs. It's a story. And there are some songs that are, inspired by the time that I like, especially worth fighting for. The one that's coming out soon, you'll be like, oh, yeah, this is where you were at mentally. But yeah, I think going from here now and like, because this is like a huge deal for me to be coming on here and like telling this story. Like, I feel like this is a huge milestone in what I'm trying to do right now, which is exactly what we said earlier, which is literally making meaning out of what happened to me. And I'm doing so in this album, The Beauty of It All. And that's what the record's called. And I get to leave here today knowing that like,
you made a difference.
I hope so. I hope so.
I promise you did.
I hope so. And now I get to go. It's a screw them. I'm going to go make art, live my life, hopefully be a pop star.
You will be. Okay.
Oh my God, thank you.
So there's going to be a day when you're really fucking famous. And I
and I was on, we're all
that
insane.
I had you on my podcast.
Wow.
Okay.
You hear that, meatball?
So that's pretty cool.
You hear that, meatball?
She's like, I played this whole time and now I'm ready to nap. But no, seriously, thank you so much for coming on
so
here.
Much
you did
for having
amazing.
me.
It's a very important
it's
story
important
to tell.
I agree. And now I'm alive and well, and I hope to just be a bubble of joy and happiness for people because that's I can give that now.
Yes. Amazing. I love it. Thank you.